Hi everybody! Today we are going to read some more of Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows by Ryan Calejo. It is one of our SSYRA books for this school year, 2020-2021, for our 6th through 8th graders. And I'm going to access that book through Destiny Discover. So first I have to go to my Launchpad, BPS space Launchpad. I look for the dark green Follett Destiny app on my Launchpad once I get logged in. Right here I see my dark green Follett Destiny app, but if I couldn't find it, if it was somewhere buried in my apps, I could always type in Destiny, D-E-S-T-I-N-Y, and it narrows it down to my Destiny apps. Go ahead and click on that app. If you get this screen, you're just going to scroll down the list of schools until you get to O for Ocean Breeze. And of course, we want to be on Destiny Discover right here. Yours will probably be logged in, but mine is not, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Login. If for some reason yours is not logged in, it will say Login at the top right corner, and your login is not your name, it's your student number, and your password is also your student number. Now, I have already checked out Charlie Hernandez. It's an ebook, and so I'm going to go up in the top left corner where you see these 3 white lines. And in the drop-down menu, I'm going to click on Checkouts because I already checked out this book. And here's my book, Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows. So to pick up where I left off, at the end of Chapter 3, starting Chapter 4, I'm going to click Open. And now we can begin reading as soon as it loads. Chapter 4. This time it happened in the worst place imaginable, middle school. Ponce de Leon Middle, to be exact. And just like the first time, I was caught completely off guard. See, by then my life had almost started to feel normal again. More than 4 weeks had passed since the horns. School was starting back up, and my 2 best friends had come home from summer camp. Not only that, but I wasn't sleeping at the police station anymore. The state had found me a temporary guardian who lived in the same South Florida neighborhood, and I'd moved into her dusty upstairs attic. Not perfect, sure, but it definitely beat the heck out of a crummy 6x8 cinder block cell. So, anyway, there I was, just sort of dozing off in 3rd period history when my life took another crazy detour into Freaksville. Unlike the horns, this particular manifestation started with an itch, a hot, sort of painful itch, way down on my back. Then the itch began to spread, up my sides, along my shoulders, down the backs of my arms. It felt as if an army of creepy bugs were crawling all over me. I started to scratch and scratch, but it didn't help. The scratching only got worse, my skin growing hotter and redder and ridiculously flaky. And that's when it happened. That's when a fat gray feather burst through the skin on my forearm like a zombie hand busting out of a grave. For half a second, I wondered if Mr. Henry's snooze-inducing lesson about the French Revolution was somehow making me hallucinate, which, by the way, wouldn't have been the first time. But then another feather sprang up, this one through a tiny pore in the crook of my left arm, and I felt my blood turn to ice. "Dios mío!" I screamed on the inside. "Not again!" Jumping to my feet, I raced for the door, snatching the big red hall pass from the pegboard on my way out. Behind me, I heard Mr. Henry shout, "Hey, Charlie, where are you going?" But I didn't stop, didn't even look back. Thankfully, the hallway was empty. No eighth graders making out by the stairs. No hall monitors lurking with their bright yellow T-shirts and walkie-talkies. I pounded past the wall of lockers and around the corner through the heavy metal door next to shop class, my breaths coming fast and shallow, then up a short flight of stairs and into the boys' bathroom, which thankfully was also empty. I ducked into the first stall, peeled off my shirt, and gasped. My chest, smooth and hairless as a baby's bottom a minute ago, was now covered in a forest of ugly little feathers. I didn't think, just started plucking, and the first thing I learned, ripping feathers out of your body isn't any fun. It's actually insanely painful. Sort of like tweezing your eyebrows, except these eyebrows were as long as my pinky finger and had hard keratin roots that sank down deep into my pores, deeper than any hair follicle. My skin stung, tears ran down my cheeks, and I had to bite down on my tongue just to keep from screaming. But I didn't stop. In fact, I started plucking even faster, squeezing my eyes shut against the tiny stings of pain and tossing the feathers into the toilet by the handful. Rip, wince, toss, rip, wince, toss. I'd almost sort of started to get into a rhythm, too, when I opened my eyes again and saw something that made my heart stop. The toilet bowl was full of feathers, almost up to the rim of the seat, but my body was still covered with them, which could mean only one thing. They were growing faster than I could pluck them. "No!" I screamed. "No, no, 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 no!" My mind was reeling. I didn't know what to do. I tried flushing the toilet, but nothing happened. I tried again, jiggling the handle this time, but instead of the feathers disappearing down the hole like they were supposed to, water filled the bowl and an unhealthy gurgling sound rose from the bottom. I froze for an instant, froze with horror, watching as the water rose up, 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 and began to spill over the sides of the bowl and onto the floor. The gurgling sounds turned into choking ones. The sharp stench of number 1 and its even stinkier numerical compadre stung my nostrils. Do something! In a panic, I peeked into the toilet, trying to see if there was anything I could do to help get the freaking thing to flush. Huge mistake, because just at that moment, a fountain of whiz-scented nasty sprayed straight up from the center of the bowl, blasting me in the face and knocking me off balance. I crashed through the stall door and landed on the floor with a wet splash. My breath exploded from my lungs in a painful whoosh. The world teetered, my head spun. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, the choking, gurgling sound spread to the other toilets, and suddenly all 5 fudge funnels were overflowing. The urinals, too. For a crazy second, I thought about trying to clean this mess up, maybe spreading some paper towels over the floor to soak up the water, but then I realized there weren't enough paper towels in the dispenser. There probably weren't even enough in the entire school. Scrambling to my feet, I ran to the bathroom door, cracked it open enough for one eye, and peered out. The hall was still empty, which was awesome. But how much longer would it stay that way? There couldn't have been more than 15 minutes left of class when I'd Speedy Gonzalez'd it out of there, and I had no idea how much time had passed. Doesn't matter, I told myself. Either way, I had to get out of here. Either way, I had to find something to cover up the feathers. Unfortunately, I could think of only one place to look. Chapter 5. The school's main office was on the first floor of the building near the entrance. My target, the lost and found box, was usually kept in the teacher's lounge, which happened to be on the far side of the room, making it just about the hardest place in the entire office to get to without being seen. But I didn't exactly have a lot of options. I made my way there as quickly and sneakily as humanly possible, arms hidden inside my shirt, my soaked through sneakers squeaking on the chipped gray linoleum. The office had a large window, chest high, through which I could see the receptionist, Mrs. Ambers, sitting at her desk. She seemed super busy, flipping randomly through a tall stack of yellow papers while yelling at someone over the phone. This was my chance. I took a deep breath, let it out slowly through my nose, then eased open the door, its rusty metal hinges practically screaming, "Intruder alert!" and slipped inside. I walked quickly past Mrs. Ambers, who was still yapping away, and into the small room with its faculty-only vending machine and cappuccino maker. The moment I stepped inside and saw the lost and found box sitting on the big laminated desk in the middle of the room, I was so excited I almost burst into a full-on theatrical rendition of La Cucaracha, but there wasn't any time for that. So instead, I just gave a little fist pump and started for the box. I was just reaching for it when a deep, gruff voice spoke up from behind me. "What are you doing in here?" I whirled around in surprise. Mrs. Kirilenko was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. Mrs. Kirilenko was one of the new teachers at our school, and even though she taught only a small group of students, only 8th grade, and only those in the gifted program, her reputation for being a ruthless disciplinarian had spread through the student body like a bad case of pink eye. She was literally the last teacher on earth I wanted to run into. I'm just looking for something I lost in homeroom," I said. My jacket, sweater, hoodie thingy." Translation: anything in that box with sleeves, it's mine. Her dark eyes narrowed in, and I know something's up kind of way. "Is that feathers sticking out of your sleeve?" she asked in that thick Russian accent of hers. "A feather? Ha! What?" I took a tiny, terrified step back, bumping up against the freezing cold wall. "No feathers here, just skin and bones, like your average, completely normal middle school." She cornered me with her bulky frame. "Take your arms out of your shirt." "Excuse me?" I squeaked. "Now." Her voice was so loud, so intimidating, that I had no choice but to obey. Slowly, grudgingly, I pulled my trembling arms out of the sticky sleeves of my t-shirt and watched as Mrs. Kirilenko's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. "I can explain," I started to say, although I actually couldn't, not even a little. But she never gave me a chance. "No need," she said, shooting up a hand to shush me. "I already know what is going on here." My eyebrows shot up. "You do?" Da, of course I do. You are part of Mrs. Tannenbaum's upcoming play." "I am?" Then, realizing I should probably go with this, yes, I am. Granted, it is not her best work. Maybe she is losing a bit of her magic touch, as you Americans would say, but it is not bad. She plucked a feather from the already tender underside of my forearm, making me flinch. "Something wrong?" I shook my head. "Nope, didn't hurt one bit." "Of course not. They are glued to your arm with some sort of specialized adhesive." She plucked another, this one from higher up on my arm, near my armpit, and I screamed on the inside. She could have stabbed me with the world's sharpest thumbtack, and it probably would have hurt less. "Bell horn roll-on, perhaps?" "That's the one." I could barely get the words out. "What most around here failed to realize is that I was member of Russian intelligence community before becoming teacher, she said. So one must wakey pretty early in the morning to pull the old bear carcass over this Muscovite